Okay, this is the Unit 3 assessment. The body tells a story. The case of Otzi the Iceman. In 1991, two hikers were out for a hike in the Alps mountains of Europe. One of them spotted something sticking out of the ice. They went to have a look. It turned out to be a body. The hikers thought it might be the body of a hiker who had died recently, so they notified the police. The body was unearthed and examined. It turned out to be the body of a man who had died about 5,300 years ago. His body had not decayed much. It had been covered by snow and ice. The snow and ice had preserved the body. At that point, the police began to lose interest. Whoever the man was, he was not the victim of a crime in the recent past. On the other hand, scientists and historians started to get more interested. This man, who was nicknamed Otzi, had lived a long time ago in prehistoric times. He lived back when writing had not been yet invented. Many people were hoping Otzi's body might help us learn more about how human beings lived in prehistoric times. Scientists began to study the Iceman's body. They looked at his skeleton, they measured his bones. The bones helped them pin down some key facts. They made it clear that Otzi was a man. He was about 45 when he died. He stood about 5 feet 4 inches tall and weighed about 110 pounds. He would be a bit on the small side today, but would have been normal sized about 5,000 years ago. One scientist looked at Otzi's leg bone. He found that Otzi had strong bones. The Iceman's tibia was thick and strong. It had been strengthened by traveling long distances on sloping ground. Otzi had apparently walked many miles on the slopes of the Alps. He may have been a shepherd who tended to herds of animals. The scientists also found a small fracture in Otzi's hip bone. This is an injury that was caused by years of wear and tear. Another scientist looked at Otzi's teeth. He found tiny specks of pollen and dust in Otzi's tooth enamel. These tiny grains came from specific kinds of plants. They suggested that Otzi spent his childhood in a specific area in northern Italy where such plants grow. Later, he moved farther north into the area where his body was found. Scientists used X-rays to examine Otzi's body. One X-ray showed that he had an arrowhead lodged in his left shoulder. Apparently, someone shot him with an arrow. It may have been the arrow that killed him, but scientists are not sure. Other scientists looked at Otzi's digestive system. In Otzi's intestines, they found the remains of 2 meals. These were the meals that he had eaten in the hours before his death. The main course for one meal consisted of meat from a chamois, a kind of antelope. During this meal, Otzi also ate some roots and fruit. The other meal included meat from a red deer, along with more root and fruits. Scientists found grains of pollen from trees in Otzi's food. These suggested that Otzi ate one of his last meals in a pine forest and that he died during the springtime when the pollen is produced by plants. Scientists also found wheat and barley in Otzi's stomach. They think these grains may have been grown by Otzi and his kinsmen, rather than picked in the wild. These grains may have been baked to make bread. A group of scientists studied Otzi's lungs. They found that his lungs were blackened, probably from the smoke of campfires. You might not think fingernails are very interesting, but it turns out they are. Fingernails provide a record of bodily health, sort of like the rings of a tree. Otzi's fingernails had 3 odd lines. Scientists think each line was left by an illness. Otzi was probably sick 3 times in the 6 months before he died. His last sickness seems to have lasted about 2 weeks. You can see that people were right to be excited about the discovery of Otzi's body. By studying his body, we have learned a lot about how human beings may have lived in prehistoric times. Now let's look at our questions. Remember, go back into your story and find your answers. You may pause the video while you're looking for your answers. Why had Otzi's body not decayed much? So go back and look in your story. What was it that kept his body from decaying? Number 2, which of Otzi's bones had been strengthened by traveling long distances on sloping ground? Was it his tibia, his fibula, his sternum, or his cranium? Number 3, what does the word sloping mean in the following sentence? It had been strengthened by the traveling long distance on sloping ground. Does sloping mean flat, rough, slanted, or sandy? Number 4, a scientist found tiny specks of blank and blank in Otzi's tooth enamel. So I go back into the story and find where it was talking about his tooth enamel. And what did they find? There was 2 things that they found in Otzi's tooth enamel. Number 5, why was using x-rays a good way to examine Otzi's body? Is it because A, x-rays show a picture of the outside of his body? B, x-rays show a picture of the inside of the body? C, x-rays show how muscles work? Or D, because x-rays show how the nervous system works? So think about what an x-ray does. Number 6, why did the author write this selection? Remember about author's purpose. Was it to tell the readers about what scientists learned from a preserved Iceman? Is it B, to question readers about scientists who examine bones? C, to educate readers about scientists in the Alps? Or D, to prevent readers from becoming scientists who preserve things from nature? Number 7, according to the selection, what does the word kinsman mean? Are they animals, kings, relatives, or pets? So go back into the story, find the word kinsman, and figure out, using context clues, what does that word mean? Okay. Now, we have 6 sentences. One of those sentences is our topic sentence, and we're going to write a TS for that sentence. One of our sentences is a concluding sentence, so we're going to write that on 1. Okay? Then we're going to number the remaining sentences to put them in the correct order of which provide detail. So let's listen for our topic sentence and then our concluding sentence, and then number the others starting at 1. Next, you pour the hot water in a cup and drop in a tea bag. Then remove the tea bag carefully and add sugar or milk if you wish. Making a cup of hot tea is an easy thing to do. You must wait 3 to 5 minutes for the tea to steep or become tea. First, you heat water in a kettle on the stove. Before you know it, your tea is ready to drink. Number 11. If scientists misjudge something about Otzi, what does that mean they did? So look at misjudged. Think about your prefix. How does that change the word? So if I misjudged something, what did I do? Number 12. Scientists may disagree about what features of Otzi's body indicate, which means scientists may A, not believe that someone is honest, not enjoy something, not do what someone tells them to do, or D, not have the same opinion. Number 13. Put the following words from this selection in alphabetical order: skeleton, scientist, fracture, frozen, Iceman. Put those words in alphabetical order. Okay. And then turn in your paper.